have that don't require a quorum. Hopefully, at least one more member is on their way here. Tonight it's my pleasure to introduce, and this is for our first time, Pastor Molly Lovall from the New Hope Pentecostal Church of God, who is here tonight to deliver an invocation for this meeting. Pastor.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see everybody. I'm just going to lead us in a word of prayer. I just want to thank you people for doing what you do. It's quite the job. I'm glad you have it, not I. I'll take my job. We'll take our job.
There you go.
All right, to bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you this day that we can come together, Lord. And Father, I ask that you give this council meeting, Lord, wisdom and knowledge and understanding into all the things that they have to do and to deal with. I pray, Father, that you will bless each one of them, Lord, in all their endeavors and their homes. I thank you for the town of Perry, where my husband has been grown and raised, and I just thank you, Father, for the opportunity to serve a living God. I thank you for all that you do and all that you will do, and I give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pastor, thank you for your service. Yes, Terry. That's the Pastor Lovall was doing the invocation, and so I waited. We're short on a quorum. Are you on your way? Okay, we're going to do some of the stuff that doesn't require a quorum, but right now I don't have Chris, Mike, or you, and I need at least one of you to conduct any business. Okay, I'll tell Adam that was going to be his problem, but wash up and change your shirt. Thank you. Bye. All right, Terry says he's on his way, so we'll at least get to a quorum. So, let's see. I can't call the meeting to order yet. We'll save the Pledge of Allegiance for when we have a quorum. No point in doing the roll call. Don't have a quorum, can't approve the agenda, can't approve minutes. This takes us to pre-approved reports and presentations, which we don't have any of. Public comment, we're not in session. If anybody would like to make a public comment at this time, it won't count. If you want to wait until there's an official meeting, then I'll give another opportunity then. Does anyone want to speak to anything for the council members that are here? We'll move to communications. Devin, do you have some communications?
Yeah, one. I received an email from Mindy Galloway on May 18, 2018. It says, "Dear Perry City Council, please accept my resignation from the Perry Planning Commission as I now look forward to serving on the City Council. My years as a member of the Planning Commission has been very rewarding, and I am honored to have worked with so many dedicated people. Yours truly, Mindy Galloway." And that's all I have for correspondence.
Very good. Thank you. Let's see. I have a few updates for council. I think all the council members are aware of the activity that's going on M52 south of town, where Mosers are proposing to crush concrete. We've had several discussions with them, trying to make sure that everything goes through its proper process. At this point in time, the Mosers have been granted a permit that allows them to store concrete out in the site that they're working on. The permit does not allow them to store it on the land that has been bulldozed out by M52. That land is zoned residential, and that's not a permissible use of the land. However, property behind it, owned by the Ides, is zoned and has been for a long time as heavy industrial. That is the appropriate zoning for what they're doing. Welcome, Mark.
Hi there.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Perry Township Supervisor. We're not in session yet, I don't have a quorum.
Where's Terry?
And so they've been granted a permit to store the concrete back in the Ide property, which is zoned for heavy industrial. They've been advised on the process that they have to go through to obtain a special land use permit to crush concrete out there. At this time, we don't have an application for that, so there should be no concrete crushing going on out in that direction for a while. Our friends at the township have been keeping an eye on things. As you are probably all aware, this is an area that is right on the border, so it affects folks from the township and folks from the city. The township reached out to MDOT to ask a question. There's some concern about those heavy trucks going down M52 on that S-curve, and nobody has built a proper lane for those trucks to turn off on, and there's likely some very serious risk. I have a copy, thanks to Supervisor Fox, of the response from MDOT, and I just want to share it with you guys, because to me it is, well, I'm just shocked that MDOT would behave this way. I'm just going to read it to you. They wrote, well, let me give you the question to begin with. Keith, question for you. It appears that Mark Moser Trucking is going to do some concrete crushing from the road work along I-69. Can you give me a clear understanding of what he is or may be doing? If he wants to crush concrete near M52, the curve near Ellsworth Road, are you concerned about the S-curve and traffic problems that may create? Please get back to me when you can, Supervisor Mark Fox. And MDOT responded, we received a request to haul the concrete from the I-69 project to a location on M52. Once the contractor takes the concrete from the project, it becomes their property. We check to make sure the site is not a wetland and that they have proper permits, etc., to place the material. The contractor supplied a zoning permit from the city of Perry for the work. That would be the one for placing the material. As far as work on the S-curve, if they are outside of our row, R-O-W, I don't know what that
Right
stands
away.
for. Right of way.
Right away.
We have no jurisdiction in this area. I have no idea what MDOT is talking about. They govern M52. We don't have jurisdiction to require them to make improvements on M52. So MDOT doesn't seem to know what they're doing. I have talked with the supervisor, and I attended the Perry Township Board meeting last night. The Township Board is making plans to address their concerns to higher officials in MDOT, along with our state representatives and state senator, and I have promised the township that the city will join them in writing to those individuals. I think we need MDOT to be paying attention to what's going on there before something happens, somebody gets hurt. And since neither the township or city have authority to make requirements that improvements be done on those roads, it's up to MDOT to do it. So we'll reach out. If I have anything that needs approval from council, I'll bring it to you guys, but in the meantime, I'll work with the township to do everything we can to make sure the problem gets addressed. Also, while we're waiting on a quorum to come, I'd like to make an introduction. With us in the back is Genevieve Contrell from Horace Street. Genevieve's been a member of our community for a very long time, and she and I have talked in the past and have had many opportunities to interact. And she has recently offered to serve the city of Perry on the Planning Commission. I think she is an extraordinarily well-qualified person. I think she'll bring a lot of knowledge to the Planning Commission, and I'm grateful that she's agreed to accept the seat that Mindy has just vacated to join us here on City Council. So once we get a quorum tonight, I provided council with her letter asking for the position, and I will, after you accept Mindy's resignation, make an appointment for Genevieve and seek your approval so that our planning commission can go on without a vacant seat. Let's see, do I have anything else I can report on? I thought about torturing you guys with this. We have an ordinance number 99, which created a water pollution commission within the city of Perry, which has been vacant as far back as I go. It wasn't even on my radar. I started reading the ordinance earlier, and it makes my head hurt, so I won't read it out loud to you guys. I'll review it, and if that committee still needs to be active, I'll come back to council with some appointments. I'm thinking maybe Mr. Wood and Mr. Powell
They're excellent.
I do have a communications as well from Scott and Kelly Nover. I'll share that with you. He writes, "Dear members, I'm sorry. I am requesting in writing and hopefully a positive response for our verbal request of sidewalks on the west side of M52, south of Bath Road, to the ice cream cone store. We just hired Jeff's Concrete and he is well qualified and quite reasonable in his pricing. I know the mayor wants a safe city and many families travel to and from the business. Let's give them sidewalks the rest of the way. Please, sign Scott and Kelly Nover." I'm going to give this to the clerk and have copies made to go to you guys so that you can see what Scott wrote. And that'll be something for us to consider in this next budget year as we decide where to spend our non-motorized money. Do I have anything else that I can report on for council? I'll announce this. I have here a notice from, I believe this is from Facebook. It is hosted by the Calkins McQueen Museum. It says, "Hi friends, for your information, Perry Historical Meeting, Wednesday, June 12th, 10:30 a.m. at the McQueen House. Things are beginning to take shape with saving the McQueen House. We need people to get involved. Future meetings will be planned so that those working day jobs can attend. If you called someone or made a point of talking to a Perry Council member, thanks for helping. People are now listening to us." So everybody is aware that there is a meeting going on Wednesday, June 12th. I'm running out of things to report on that we don't need a quorum for. Do any council members have any committee reports you'd like to deliver at this time? Would you like to do that?
What? Oh, I can do that.
I got lots of paper here. Kevin, I don't think I still have that sheet.
Yeah,
with the winners
because I
on it.
had to, do you think I have it?
I think I gave it back. I think there was another
Oh,
item on
that's
there
right.
that you were going to announce.
You're right, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's
Okay,
I'm sure if you,
there you go.
if I didn't announce it out loud.
Mhm.
For this year's 2019 June winners for the Perry Pride winner and for Put Your Best Face Forward for our best businesses. The winners as picked by myself for the southeast side of town. The Perry Pride winner for for our home that is been taken care of exceptionally well and has been beautified with outdoor things and well taken care of. Our winner is Bruce and June Benson. So congratulations to Bruce and June Benson for being the Perry Pride winner for this month. And then honorable mentions for that were Kyle Trimmel, Richard and Jane Easton, and Steve and Cynthia, I'm going to say Witcher, W-I-C-H-A-R. It might be Wicker, I'm not sure. So congratulations to all of them, and thank you for all that you do in taking care of your homes and making Perry look beautiful, not only to its own residents, but to those who come and travel through the town. And then for our Put Your Best Face Forward, which is for the businesses in town. So again, I had the southeast side of town, and I chose CarQuest Perry Auto down the south side of town for the winner for this month, as they have done a good job of keeping up their business and making it look neat and presentable from the road. And they are one of our first businesses people see when they come into town, so it's a great look for us in Perry. So congratulations to Julie Mosier and CarQuest Perry Auto.
And I'll only add to Craig's nominees as they've been invited and will be presented awards and plaques at next meeting.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry, welcome.
Sorry,
You made the meeting for us.
I had my head under a tractor. My phone was in my truck.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. The time is now 7:23 PM, and I will call to order this regular meeting of the Perry City Council. Everyone who can, please rise and say with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone may be seated. Thank you. I have a challenge for council tonight. Perry Township Board, even after an extensive dialogue with me regarding what's going on South M52, got their meeting done in a half hour.
Thank you, James.
Devin, would you please call the roll?
Craig Elliott,
Here.
Mindy Galvin here, Adam Gress,
Here.
Christopher Powell, Michael Queen, Terry Wood,
Here, finally.
Mayor James Hewlett,
Here.
all accounted for except Councilmember Christopher Powell and Michael Queen.
I find that a quorum is present. Let's move to the next item on our agenda, which is approval of the agenda. The clerk and I have prepared the agenda. We believe it has all matters of business that need to come before you for your action tonight. I submit it to you for your approval or your amendment.
I move that the agenda be adopted as printed.
Second.
Moved by Elliott, seconded by Grass, that the agenda be adopted as printed. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, vote no. Motion carries. This will take us to reading and approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Devin, would you please read the minutes of, I don't have the date in front of me, our last meeting in May? Thank you. May 16th, 2019, regular city council meeting.
I move that we suspend the rules, waive the reading, approve the minutes of the May 16, 2019 regular council.
I have a correction.
Yes.
The resident requested that sidewalk be placed, is this from Beard Road? I think that's Bath Road.
He said Beard, and I did ask the resident, and I said, I think you meant Bath Road, but you said Beard Road. So I'm letting you know that I quoted you Beard Road, but if you do want to follow through, you might want to make that correction. Sorry. I'm sorry, because I heard it and I didn't want to interrupt him when he was
Yes.
talking, because I think everybody knew what his intentions meant.
So we have a
Do I
motion.
make that correction even though we know that's what he intended? I mean, I don't
Let's
have a
see
problem
what,
with that.
let's see what council wants to do. But first, I have a motion. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Grass, seconded by Elliott, that we suspend the rules, waive the reading, and approve the minutes of the May 16th regular city council meeting as presented. I'll open the floor up for discussion. I think everybody heard the clerk's question. Do you guys want the street name to be corrected to what we know it was? And we do have his letter that I read to you tonight confirming what his intention was. to
And
say.
he's aware, I'm personally talking to him over that.
I would think, yeah, let's go ahead and switch that from Beard to bathroom. Make that correction.
Okay, so the motion is amended to approve the amended minutes to correct Beard Road to Bath Road. Motion by Grass, seconded by Elliott. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, vote no. Motion carries. That will move us to pre-approved reports and presentations. We don't have any. We'll move on to public comment. This is our,
One quick question, we have the May 23rd meeting, we have the minutes.
oh,
Sorry.
my apologies. The clerk, the council clerk have corrected me. We have another set of minutes that need approval. So, Devin, would you please read the minutes of the May 23rd, 2019 special city council meeting?
I move that we suspend the rules, waive the reading, and approve the minutes of the May 23rd, 2019 special council meeting.
Moved by Elliott, seconded by Galbavy, that we suspend the rules, waive the reading, and approve the minutes of the May 23rd special city council meeting. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries. Thank you for catching that. Now we'll move on to public comment. Is at this time during our meeting and at the end of any other business may come before council that we open the floor up for members of the public to address the city council on any matter they may have on their mind. We do have a 3-minute time limit on public comment. Would anyone like to address the council at this time? Seeing no public comment, did I miss something else?
I'm making sure.
You already said we didn't have any.
Okay.
Okay. Seeing no public comment, we'll close this section. We've done communications, so we will move on, and we've done mayor and department head reports, we've done committee reports, unless you have anything,
Do
Terry.
you want me to communicate the resignation to Terry because he wasn't here?
Terry, do you want to hear the communications again? We have a resignation for you.
Resignation, I know who it is, no, I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We've been through committee reports, unless you have a committee report tonight.
No, I do not.
Okay, we'll move to presentation and approval of the bills. Council has had the opportunity to review the bills and we seek permission to pay them.
I move that we approve the bills as presented and that payment be authorized.
Second.
Moved by Wood, seconded by Grass, that payment, sorry. Approve the payment of the bills.
It's one of those days.
Is there discussion on the bills or the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. We'll move on to old
Do you want
business.
department heads to report? I know you did.
Do you have a report?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm racing with Mark.
I guess so, because,
I'm trying to move this along, half hour. I was shooting for 29
I
minutes.
think you got all the department heads here, boy, well, maybe they were happy about it.
We were.
I'm missing I'm missing a
You
treasurer.
can report whatever you want, leave me out of it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, a few things that have come through my desk in the last 2 days that I wanted to make you aware of that's going on. One, a reminder, the option to purchase the 130 Main Street. June 10th will be at our 60 days and counting, having that option open. That's all I have to say. And then the other thing that came in was SATA. Each year, council has letters from SATA. One, it is determining their final invoice. From what they quoted and wanted council to commit to, it was $1,033.71 less than what you committed to a year ago. And then, so that invoice will be going out and it has been applied. That is done by a millage by the city and we collect it after we pay it so that we get the millage correct. Also in that envelope, and this is referencing every year, SATA asks you to commit. They do an estimated budget of what they're going to need. And this will be on an agenda and they're going to be asking for the city to commit to $6,011.05. Mayor's question to me was whether that's in the parameters of the millage that was set that would go towards it, and I could not give him that answer at this time because it came on my desk that soon. I haven't gotten with Joanne to see if it meets the .25.
Is the question whether that would exceed it?
Yes. The voters have approved a $0.25 mill for purposes of providing public transportation. And so we're allowed to assess up to a $0.25. It has been the city's practice to assess only what is needed. So it's a net zero to the city. It's money coming in and then money going to provide that public transportation. But we are limited to being able to assess a $0.25. So if the request exceeds a $0.25, then the question to council becomes different. Is council willing to commit out of the general funds of the city the additional money to meet their request? Or is council inclined to only commit to the $0.25 that the voters have approved? And then, depending on what those answers are, we chart our course and where we go from there. So I need to make, I don't know off the top of my head what a $0.25 generates under our current taxable values, so we'll get that sorted out and then have a report for council so that you can make a decision.
The next thing I want to put on council and mayor's radar is that there was a moratorium passed on January 17th, and I will let you know that it shall expire on July 17th, 2019. So I will plan on making copies for all of you, and you can let me know whether you're going to do it again or make a decision on it, or mayor will draft on that part of it.
You didn't tell them what the moratorium was.
You want me to read it?
If you would just tell them
Just
what
tell
it
them
was.
what it is for.
Recently undertaken the process of attending marijuana establishment. Okay. The city of Perry does hereby impose a temporary moratorium banning the establishment and/or operation of a facility within the city, other than private residence, that allows or promotes the use or consumption of marijuana on the premises, is what it is pertaining to.
So the key question will be whether or not we're done with the zoning ordinances, which we have a couple before you now in various states of process. But if we haven't finished that work by July 17th, the moratorium will expire.
The next item that has landed at my desk is, both of them are from Schindler Elevator Corporation. They are a service contract company that we use to make sure that our elevator is up to state code and a maintenance agreement with them. Two things have come up. One is the state is talking about implementing testing requirements. The difference is that our testing that they're instructing about was every 3 years. Now they want to implement it every year. Well, in order for Schindler to be able to do that for us, what they have emailed me, which will be in front of mayor and council to consider, is that to consider this, we'll have to amend our contract, because of course that's labor, because there's been cost involved, because they'll have to be here more. I do know that I talked to a gentleman, and Schindler, along with all other service companies out there, are kind of arguing with the state about this. They don't agree with it, but they do want to make sure, because state will come in and fine us if we don't do this, so they want to make sure all bases are covered. So if this doesn't take place, and we're back to the 3 years, then the amendment will be necessary to the contract. There is a call box in the all you have to press if you would say the power would go out in the elevator, or it got jammed and you were stuck in it. It's an emergency phone line, goes right to dispatch. It is currently has some programming issues. We have confirmed that the telephone line is fine. There's something wrong with the telephone itself. So I received a quote. Because it's not the maintenance of it, it's actual replacing of the phone is what they've recommended. They've done all the basics, and that did not work. I'm going to do a little research. This just came onto my desk today, because labor, the product, programming, all of the above, they want up to charge us $2,799. And I'm just reporting. I'm going to do some research, but I'm making you aware I want to find out if we have to have it, if to be ADA compliant, is this a state requirement, before I put it in front of council to even consider. So, and then this came on my desk actually the end of May. There isn't a hurry on it yet, but I'm just reporting that before my time, there was a franchise agreement according to our city ordinance with Consumers Energy. It was a 30-year franchise agreement, and it is coming up in November to expire. So they have sent me examples. I've already sent it to the attorney, and I've already researched our old ordinance. This is in ordinance form. I have a few questions because things have changed. Environment, different things are involved, a little bit of wording. And so I just need to follow up with consumers and get some questions answered. And so in the next couple of months, you will see that ordinance to go forward whether you want to consider another 30 years with Consumers Energy. That's it.
Thank you. Council have any questions for our city clerk? Kyle, do you want to give a report tonight?
Unless the council has any questions or concerns, I'm all set.
Any questions for our chief of police? John, do you have a report you want to give tonight?
Same as Chiefs.
Any questions for our DPW superintendent? Mrs. Hahn, I haven't given you a chance to give a report. Did you have a report from our school board you'd like to give tonight?
Yes. On Sunday, June 2nd, we held graduation, and the last number of graduates I heard was 74. I think there might have been a few since then who fulfilled their requirements. So it's somewhere between 74 and 80. And yesterday we held a retirement reception for our superintendent, Mr. Foster. He's going to be finishing up with us on June the 30th. And our new superintendent, Dr. Lori Haven, will be taking over. That's all.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad you're with us tonight. Okay, so that'll move us through, as I've been jumping all over the place here, down to old business, possible adoption to amend zoning ordinance number 344 regarding definitions of adult businesses. This was a matter that has come before the council and has been through first reading. The last time that we brought this up, council made a decision to table this zoning ordinance indefinitely. And at your last meeting at my request, council took the ordinance off the table. We've now presented notice that we're going to be addressing this at the meeting. And I'll open the floor up for discussions, questions, and motions regarding the possible final approval of this zoning ordinance.
I was gonna, well, I wonder if it'd be prudent of us to leave this as no action taken until we have full council.
How would council like to proceed?
We can wait, if you want to wait till the other two are here. It don't matter to me.
We do have enough to act tonight. You would have to be unanimous since it takes 4 votes to pass an ordinance.
Is there something in there you think that is controversial that?
Well, I think it's, I just think it might be wise to have the whole council.
Well, I know that Mr. Powell has been very vocal in his opposition to this ordinance.
Well, then
Mr. Queen hasn't said much of anything, one way or the other.
let's wait till if we can get a full one. I recommend that we wait one more meeting, see if we can get a full meeting, and if we do, then do it. Either way.
Do I have unanimous consent to believe this is no action taken?
Yeah.
That's what we will do. We will move to new business.
Can I add something to that real quick?
Please go ahead.
Since seeing as the moratorium is going to be off July 17th, I would say that we need a vote on this before that. So I would probably like to make a motion that we have a vote on this before the July 17th, whether we have a full council or not.
A motion isn't really necessary. This
Okay.
will appear on your next agenda, and council will be allowed to take action at that time, should you see fit to do so.
Sounds good? Works for me.
Anything else? Then we'll move to new business, possible approval of Mindy's resignation.
I move that we accept the resignation of Mindy Galbavy from the Planning Commission with regret.
Moved by Elliott, seconded by Grass, that we accept the resignation of Mindy Galbavy from the Planning Commission with regret. And I'll add with pleasure that she's joined us here in City Council. Is there discussion?
Gee, if we don't do that. I don't have any.
Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries. We'll now move to mayor's appointments. I have one appointment for you tonight. At this time, I would like to appoint Genevieve Cantrell of 131 Horace Street to the Planning Commission to fill, let's get the terms right here, to fill a term that expires on January of 2021. And I seek council's consent and approval.
I move that we approve the mayor's appointment of Genevieve Cottrell to the Planning Commission for a term to expire January 2021.
Second.
Moved by Elliott, seconded by Galbavy, that council approve the mayor's appointment of Genevieve Cantrell. Is there discussion?
Yeah, but didn't we used to have those people show up at the meeting so we could see who they are?
She's here.
Mrs.
back.
Cantrell, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Genevieve
Oh,
Cottrell.
there you are.
Here at the meeting.
Thank you. I just like that so that I can pretend that tomorrow when I see you on the street, I'll know who you are.
Very good, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries. Welcome to our planning commission. Thank you for your willingness to serve. We will now move on to possible first reading to amend zoning ordinance number 343 regarding definition of marijuana establishments. This is the first step in an ordinance approval. So this action tonight would not lead to final approval of the ordinance, but it would simply complete the statutory requirement that we have a first reading and place it on the next agenda for approval. I'll open the floor up, given our previous discussion, for council to ask questions, have discussion, or make motions. What would you guys like to do on this one? If you leave this no action taken, you're going to need 2 meetings to process it
I'll
fully.
move that the zoning ordinance amendment 343 regarding definitions of marijuana establishments, and which reads as follows, be placed on,
Ooh, sorry,
that's not,
yeah,
Read.
no,
I move that we
Just
go ahead and move
which
forward
read?
with first reading.
No, that's correct, because what you do is you read it and then it'll be placed on the next.
Extended, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So read as follows, placed on the next agenda for possible adoption.
You have to read
I
it
have to read the
though.
whole thing. I know I should have waited on that. Okay. Section 323, regarding marijuana establishments. No marijuana establishments shall be commenced, conducted, operated, or utilized in any zoning district on or from any property within the city of Perry. Furthermore, no person shall frequent, patronize, or obtain or purchase any marijuana from any marijuana establishment within the city of Perry. Subsection B, Perry City Zoning Ordinance, Section 214, definitions M shall be amended to insert the following definition after marina and shall be, and before master plan. Marijuana establishment means a marijuana grower, marijuana safety compliance facility, marijuana processor, marijuana micro business, marijuana retailer, marijuana secure transporter, or any other type of marijuana related business licensed by the state of Michigan. Okay, keep going.
That's it. The next one is for another issue. We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Grass, seconded by Elliott. Sorry, let me get my wording right here. To do first reading and place on the next agenda zoning ordinance amendment 343 regarding definitions of marijuana establishments, and as just read. I'll open the floor up for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the first reading, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. The motion carries. We'll have both of these on your next agenda for possible approval. That will now move us down to possible adoption of a resolution to create a special assessment district. Members of council will probably remember that we have had a couple of residents from over on Washington Street come to talk to us about getting Washington Street from First Street to the dead end paved. That's currently a dirt road. They have submitted the proper paperwork to ask that we begin that process. Part of the process results in the city paving the road and doing a special assessment for the folks that benefit from that paving. So that would be the properties along Washington Street in the area that would be paved. So we have before you a resolution that will create that special assessment district. I'll open the floor up for discussion, questions, and motions.
Do we have a list of the residents that said yes on that? I would assume we did up there.
We do. I did not bring that folder down with me today, the
But-
petition itself.
But this creates a notice so that everybody that will be affected by it will receive notice as to what's happening and what the assessment will be, and would have an opportunity to come and speak to you before we do anything further. This is just the beginning of the process.
I was just curious if there was any no's on there. I mean, there's only, what, 1, 2, 3 people, 4 people on that street that,
The petition would not show you no's. The petition is something that is brought to the city with signatures of property owners that are involved in it. It has to be 75% of the owners,
75%.
and that has been verified by our city attorney.
Okay, that's my curiosity. Thank you.
So not every owner signed that petition. That I can tell you, but that doesn't mean it's a no. That just means that they're not on,
Yeah.
they did not sign the petition.
Enough did sign to have it go
Yes,
keep.
everything has been verified by the city attorney, that they have enough to submit it to council to request this.
And everybody will be served notice, so if anyone has and wants to say no, before you create the special assessment district, they'll be given an opportunity to speak to you about that. They'll also be here, given an opportunity to speak to you about it if their answer is yes as well.
Do we get explained what is required or what will happen out of that at that point in time, or do we want to go ahead and do it now? As far as what the procedure is, how the cost is given to the individuals of the street, et cetera. What's the process for this, for us to go
Have you
through?
reviewed what your resolution, that answers some of the questions that have,
Here.
How about
that the city
if I
attorney.
go ahead and read this out, so everybody's got it? Council isn't required to read resolutions, but we'll just put it all out. The resolution reads, resolved, whereas the city has received a petition from a majority of the owners of land liable to be assessed, requesting that a special assessment district created to defray the cost of paving Washington Street from First Street to the southern terminus of Washington Street. Therefore, the city does determine to create a special assessment district consisting of all lands that abut Washington Street from First Street to the southern terminus of Washington Street for the purpose of defraying the cost of paving said portion of Washington Street. The city does determine that the cost of paving shall be paid by special assessment, and 100% of the cost shall be paid from the funds generated by the special assessment district. Further, the superintendent of public works is directed to prepare estimates of the expenses of the paving project and shall deposit said estimates with the city clerk for public examination. Further, the city council shall meet and consider objections to the proposed public improvement on, you set the date, at 7:15. The city clerk is directed to notify the subject property owners of the meeting date and time and the estimated cost by first-class mail at least 10 days prior to said meeting, and publish notice once a week for at least 2 weeks prior to said meeting. So they'll be told what the proposed assessment is going to cost them and when a public hearing is scheduled for you to hear any objections.
Is the special assessment basically the estimate that we would?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I honestly cannot justify paving a dead-end street out of the funding that we have. While I understand the desire to have the street paved, it benefits a very small portion of the community. We have other streets that affect everybody in the community far more than that. However, if these residents are interested in getting it done and they're willing to do it through a special assessment district under our ordinances, they have a right to request that, and we would accommodate them. You would have to pick a date on which to have the public hearing.
And
if
I
you
would
wanna do
recommend
this.
some input, Mayor, from your superintendent of public works, due to he is the key of before I can actually properly serve notice of if his bids aren't coming in, then I would have a delay on serving proper notice.
So John, we would like to get your advice on when we'll have given you sufficient time to gather the information you need of and give the city clerk sufficient time to meet the notice requirements. We are looking forward, we certainly could not do it by our June 20th meeting. That's 2 weeks from today, and that would be too soon for us to meet all the notice requirements that we have. Our first meeting in July is on July 4th, and I am anticipating that we will cancel that due to the holiday, which would make our next meeting July 18th. John, I don't know if that would give you sufficient time or not.
I think I should be able to get everything by then. Do you want 3 bids from, I'm having a hard time getting bids right now because everybody is swamped and contracted themselves out for the summer. So it's taken me a little bit more time to stay in touch with people.
So we could push it out further than that and go to August 1st or August 15th. What's council's thoughts on John's question about getting 3 bids?
Sounds like
How you'd like to
You
proceed?
just get the bids you can get, and if you can only get 1 or 2, then that's all you can get.
Okay.
I mean, you can't just,
Well, I didn't know how hard you want me to, how much time you want me to spend trying to
well, I
nail
agree,
stuff
this time
down.
of year, they're busy.
Right, I mean, every paving project is
You
in
might not
process.
get any.
So, are you saying to have it for the next meeting then?
Yeah, the 18th, I think, isn't it? You said what day was it?
July 18th.
July 18th?
July 18th.
Why are you shaking your head no?
Because the next meeting is in June, and that's not enough time.
June 20th is
Okay,
not
all
possible.
right, the second one, all right.
I took it that Terry meant the
I meant
next one that I
the-
said was possible.
Okay.
I meant
fine.
July 18th.
All right.
I'm still tired.
That's fine.
That's more why I was asking for clarification.
Mid-July, well, I can make something happen.
Okay, mid-July is when he can have the numbers,
Yeah, not paved,
then
but
you're
I'll
gonna
get the
need to
numbers
go to
together.
August for the public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So then you would be looking at setting the public hearing either on August 1st, or if you want to give them more than enough time to make sure that they can get the bids and do the public notice, your next alternative is August 15th.
Let's do August 15th, it gives plenty of time for everybody to get the figures and get told and et cetera.
I have been.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we accept and approve the following resolution.
If you want, you can just say, as read by the mayor, but you need to specifically
Yes.
state
So
the
moved.
public hearing.
As read by the mayor, with the date being August 15th of 2019.
Moved by Elliott, seconded by Grants, to accept and approve the resolution as just read, and the city council shall meet and consider objections to the proposed public improvement on the 15th day of August 2019 at 7:15 p.m. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is discussion regarding noise ordinance and regulating operating efforts. So in connection with what's going on down on the south side of town on M52 and the possibility of having somebody out there crushing concrete, I wanted to have a discussion with council on whether or not you would be inclined to consider ordinances that would regulate time of operation for such a thing, and also set some standards for noise. So I'm looking for a little guidance from council, if you want to do something and what you want to do. If you want to do something, and I can obtain an understanding of what you think would be appropriate, I'll have the city attorney draft a proposed ordinance to bring before you. In other words, I'm talking about setting some reasonable limits so that nobody can be out there crushing concrete at 5 a.m. in the morning, or running a concrete crusher until midnight.
We have a noise ordinance, don't we? And I think there's something like, I can't remember the hours, wasn't it 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock?
There are no hours.
There are no hours?
No.
I would
Whoa.
say if I was living next to something like that, like 8 or 9 to 5 p.m. would be something of a reasonable expectancy.
Well, I sure don't want them to, you know, it's gonna vibrate, shake the ground. Of course, that's in the township too.
No. The proposed site for the concrete crushing is all in the city.
As of right now, they can't crush it, so they can crush.
That's correct.
In-
They're talking
in the
about
city?
crushing in the city, yes. Because the land out there that's in the township, Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, is not properly zoned for crushing. The area that is available for crushing is that section of land that has been, for a very long time, zoned for heavy industrial.
The I
And that's in the
property
city.
where they're going to put the prison, et cetera, years and years ago.
So,
Are they allowed to
The-
take industrial usage through a restricted zoning to get to the industrial? Are they allowed to do that?
They would have to,
Well, I'm saying, is that permissible under the?
for them to get back there.
Yeah.
They would have to find a way to do it. They would need to build access to that.
Mayor, there is concrete there now, you know.
yeah, there's concrete there
Yeah, I know.
already.
Oh, okay.
They've been issued a permit that allows them to store it in that Beaujon, or that Ideland, but not to
So-
crush it yet.
The building there is out of the city, and the other side we pick up.
The Perry Township, the building's in our property. The building is Rod, that garage is Perry Township. The land to the north of it is that section where you wanted your well, backup well. That, the house burned and you own that property, you got it from the tax roll.
That's ours.
That's yours.
Yes.
So is the, where he's cleared, all that is Perry City.
So that little building there, that garage, is not ours, it's yours.
It's mine, it's ours. And that's why we were involved with the MDOT to try to find out why they can park the 18-wheelers less than 66 foot from the road, which is illegal. And that's been going on since December of 2017. But we don't do our zoning, the gentleman in Corona does, and they said he's not running a business. You have the letter, he's not running a business, it's only a family deal. And that's back when he had the race cars, the noise, and that's over with. But anyway, so it's been an ongoing situation with the township, because I've got other people that repair cars and they've made them clean out and clean up and site it and everything else, and yet this is right before our very eyes. We all drive down and, so our township's gonna write a letter to some higher up people and see if we can get some answers.
Well, I think noise ordinance should be from 12 noon to 1 PM.
I'm not sure that that will fit within the parameter. I can certainly ask the city attorney what kind of hour restrictions you can set. City attorney advises me that whatever limits we set have to be reasonable. I expect providing for only 1 hour a day probably wouldn't be regarded reasonably, but I certainly can find out how restrictive you can be on that.
I tried. But it's gonna beat that, you know. What scares me is the silt getting down in the ground, into the water, in the air.
Sure.
Well, there is a permitting process with the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality that they have to get through as well. And we're waiting for them to complete that process before the city issues a permit.
I'm assuming this is something that's done elsewhere, not just this is the first time it's been done, so
Yes.
I'm sure they have plenty of parameters and stuff on this.
Oh, they tried to tell me they got a brand new truck, they spray water on it, and you won't get nothing out. I'm young, slim, and good looking too.
I agree. I completely agree with that one too. The second statement.
You ain't letting no points with me.
Of course, the township's concerned because there's that drain that goes up to, and goes on up to the Looking Glass River, and the drain commissioner, Tony Newman, did meet with them on Thursday, a week ago. He assured him he would not put the concrete near that. He's got the, he's kind of, you've got the, oh, what do you call it, the
Silk fence?
silk fence up, you know, and he's assured him that he won't go any further, and so Tony was comfortable with that, so.
They get it in the river.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just still curious on whether how, I mean, because it's clearly an industrial operation that they're having to transport through city zoning. I mean, there's no way, there's no road there.
No, they would
There would have to
build
be an
access.
industrial operation on city, within the city's bounds, correct? I mean, is that, correct if I'm misunderstanding?
Yes. Well, here, we got the zoning map right here. So, let's go to this so we can get an understanding. This area out here along M52 is zoned R1B, one family residential. This kind of activity cannot go on in that zoning, or in this section here, which is R1A. This section here in gray is I2. That's our heavy industrial zoning out here. And so the proposed location for the concrete storage and crushing and where that activity would have to occur is on this land that's in gray. So they would have to build access to get back to this land.
So my question is, be the access to get back to that land, would they have to have a special permit for industrial use?
Not for the access, no.
Even
Oh,
if
why
they're running
do
a
that
trucking
land?
operation through it?
Well, they've got quite a wide area out there. If you go out and take a look, you'll see how much of an area they.
Well, I've seen it, I'm just curious, I mean, if that's in the city zone, I mean, if they're accessing it from the city zone.
Yeah, well, it's all in the city.
Well, they're going through the R section there
Yes,
to get in there.
Yeah.
yes. But it's all in the city. The section that they're going through to get to the heavy industrial is in the city, and the section that they want to do the concrete crushing on, that zone heavy industrial, is in the city.
I think we're gonna end up being able for them to explain and to be able to comply, because along with a special land use permit, they will also have to complete a site plan review application and a fee, and that is very extensive of all the details. You have to establish your business through of what you're doing, what you're building, and how you're getting there, and drives and all that kind of stuff.
So there's a lot of moving pieces that we're dealing with, and the township is dealing with here. And most of that is, you already have ordinances in place to deal with that. And so the Mosers seeking permission to do this are being advised on and run through the city's process. They also have processes they have to complete with the state, including a permit from the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. So those pieces are already in motion, and council has already done what it needs to do to make sure that those steps have to happen. However, we have no ordinances regarding hours of operation and noise that are designed to deal with this issue. And so I'm bringing it to you to get a little direction so that we can also deal with that step now before we get to a point where they could have qualified to do concrete crushing.
When I was doing the second pit back here, we had a noise ordinance and a time ordinance they could run. Now, was that a temporary one then?
I don't have the answer to that question, but the city attorney tells me we would need to update our ordinance to deal with this.
Different permit.
Good what?
It's a different permit.
You're talking about up in Perry Lakes.
Yeah, the second lake back in there. When we talked about when they could do it and the noise and everything.
Right. I think you need to update your ordinance. I'm just looking for a little direction before I give instructions to the city attorney to prepare something for you.
All right, I'm gonna give in a little bit. We'll make it 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m.
Terry, are you a little anti this or what?
I don't want the silica around me.
Yeah.
I have enough breathing problems, I don't need that.
So let me ask this, I have a suggestion, and tell me if this will be satisfactory. How about if I ask the city attorney, I'll tell the city attorney that council is inclined to consider an ordinance governing noise and hours of operation, that they're inclined to be relatively restrictive, and we would like him to draft an ordinance that accomplishes that for you to consider. I mean, I could tell you want to be extraordinary, but he'll have to give us some guidance on what can be considered reasonable. And once you have it in front of you, you can ask questions, we can get answers to those questions, and you can make some decisions. But
8 to
I'll put
5.
an ordinance in front of you.
8 to 5 as far as I'm concerned, but,
You're not committing to specific anything, I'm just
No.
looking for a little guidance
No.
before I put something in front of you.
I think it'd be reasonable just to see, I mean, I think I've understood you correctly, get a.
and because of the, they're gonna haul them trucks right through town.
I would expect they would have to.
And they can do that, it's MDOT, it's Michigan State, or Michigan Highway.
The only other option would be what, going down south and coming through on the other roads and back up.
I suspect that would be far more destructive.
Do-
I
do
don't
we
think the
have-
county's gonna want them doing that.
Yeah.
And let's keep in mind too, that this concrete crushing that they're doing it for MDOT,
Yeah.
for the work that's being done up on I-69. And I don't know how that's affecting MDOT's response.
Do we have any idea the decibel they're gonna create, or the vibration on the ground, or anything like that, do we know?
I'm not an expert in concrete crushing, Terry, no, I don't know.
I don't either.
I've been told that they're not gonna make much noise at all, I just have my doubts about that.
They're not gonna make no noise crushing cement.
Not much.
Mayor,
Yes,
our clerk, Kelly, printed off 91 pages from from the MDEQ, or the new name, on specifically mineral crushing. And it talks about the fact they've got to have an environmental science engineer person for the decibel, and also for the opacity, 15% opacity. Anyway, it's very involved. You can do it online, you can read it, skim through it. Only about the first half is relevant because it goes into the Nepotus permit, the wastewater permit, and we're not worried about that. But the 50 pages of it, and I printed off for you also what I printed. There's 9 pages of permits that are awaiting processing for people that want to do crushed stone, blah, blah, in the state of Michigan. They try to guarantee a 30-day turnaround, but there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. But that's all online.
and you can have that if you want, but as far as how much noise he's gonna make, no. But I can certainly have the city attorney address that in the ordinance. So we can set reasonable limits. We'll have to get a little more research and guidance as to what are reasonable limits.
Have they said approximately, do they even know how many of those big trucks are gonna be coming through town to deliver that cement out there or anything?
I don't have any information on that. I'm not sure there's anything we can do about that.
No, I don't imagine there is, but I'm just curious. They're gonna run 50 trucks an hour, and nothing we can do, but
I'm more concerned with what we can't do.
Yep.
I think having the city attorney look up those things and draft
Yeah.
them would be an next
Tell him what he thinks is reasonable. 8 o'clock is generally, I thought, was our noise ordinance, like on Sunday and stuff, that you could make noise after 8 AM. And, I can't remember what the nighttime was.
I'm hearing them before 7 AM and I'm hearing them after 9 right now.
So,
After 9 PM? I don't know, that's evening hours.
Just let
So-
me know that they have the work to do, that's, I'm already hearing that from Bath Road,
From who?
from Bath Road.
Yeah, another spot.
And that's not concrete crushing, that's just being able to hear them, the trucks moving and all that kind of stuff. I can hear them. Their hours they're working.
okay, I think I have a sense of what council wants, so let's not go down a rabbit trail
Yeah.
that we can't deal with, but I think I have a sense of what council wants, so I'll talk to the city attorney about getting a proposed ordinance put together, dealing with setting reasonable limits as to hours and noise levels, and we'll get it in front of you, and then we can have a discussion about what it says and what you want, and you can consider the ordinance.
12:59 PM to 1 PM. Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
is there anything else though? I'm not trying to rush this, I just don't.
no, that's,
I don't want to get into things that we don't have any power to do anything about anyway.
Who gives the permit for storing? Is that from the city?
Leland, our zoning administrator, issued the permit for storing it. He was able to qualify under our ordinance to be able to store it there. And so Leland issued the permit, which is what's his job.
I just
And-
wasn't positive. Since all the boundaries and everything.
Yes. Yep. The entire concrete crushing operation that's proposed would be within the boundaries of the city. I don't think the township has any land out there zoned in such a way that it would be permissible under the township's jurisdiction. I don't know where your heavy industrial's at, Mark, so I don't know where you'd have to go to.
I don't know either. We're mainly agriculture and a little industrial park,
Yeah.
which I'm sorry, I apologize that it's taken so long to put the lights up along Lansing Road. I do apologize for that. They have to use the consumers' crews when emergencies happen, so I know it's kind of taxed the police and the sheriff's department, but we're trying our best to get those up as quick. We're
why
just
you putting them
about,
down through there?
we're just about done, huh?
Why are you putting them down through there?
That was a project by the former supervisor, Sig Vernell, which he tried to do that with the DDA funds is what's doing that. And he had bids over 100,000, and we got involved with Kevin King from Consumers, who's also the mayor of Flushing, Michigan. He retired from Consumers. They helped us get down to less than $70,000.
DDA.
The
Where's
DDA,
your downtown?
the DDA is paying for it, and the Consumers maintains it, installs it for the life of the light forever, 30-plus years.
Where's your downtown?
The downtown development out in the industrial park. And so it goes from Adam Elsesser all the way down to Rose is where the lights, 37 of them. So,
Hell of a town.
Including Bennett Drive.
so, yeah. So it's something that was thought of years ago, and so it's finally come about. So,
How much they costing?
Just 70,000.
70,000 putting all those lights in?
and, yeah, and we'll pay about $380 a month for the light bill. That's all. They maintain them. We don't do anything. We have no crew. We have no maintenance, John. So for us, that was a win-win. You have to use DDA money for DDA activities, like water, sewer, and lighting, things like that. And rather than the wooden poles, we thought the steel poles would look nicer and more attractive, and I think they are turning out. They're slow, but we're close. We'll have a groundbreaking soon. So,
Okay.
dedication, Terry.
I will take your.
Downtown area, huh? I don't know the definition.
Downtown development.
We're not gonna get into that.
No, we're not gonna get into that, 'cause I could
I
spend
will
some
get
time
you
on
an
that.
ordinance regarding zoning and honors operation based on your input tonight, and I'll get it before you, I don't know if we'll have it by the next meeting, but certainly by July. Okay? So let's move on to the next item of new business, which is employee health insurance. Evan, do you want to talk to them about this?
The budget was presented and health insurance wasn't included, and as the budget meetings we were going in, we were looking at an estimated increase went in the budget of 6% for health insurance. And what that catches, I know that percentage sounds a little bit high, but Obamacare has changed the way that you actually calculate health insurance. It's not by single, couple, and family. Each year it'll raise just by your age. So you have to put it into effect when you're trying to figure out an estimate on healthcare for employees. They're aging every year, and so that rate, there's an increase by age, and then there's an increase by plan. So we give a rough guess on that. So it always takes us a while to meet with Security First. That's the company we use that goes out for bids due to the quarter that we land of our renewal. Kyle and John and Joanne and I have met with Security First and have given us different options. If the Blue Cross and Blue Shield plan that we are in right now as renewal came in at 11.67% increase. And before we all sat down, I asked the mayor and get his advice on how we should be reviewing our new plans. And he said, sharpen your pencils and get it to what we budgeted. So that's what we did. We have changed our plan. It's still a PPO. It's called Physician's Choice. It's very comparable what we already have. It's brought us down to an only 3.28% increase, or 6.8, I'm sorry. So it stays in the parameters of what you approved in the budget. The new options for employees will be, though, is Blue Cross and Blue Shield is offering this kind of a tier 1, tier 2. Your doctor's in a tier 1 and actually has a networking of specialists and all that, and they're in the same network. You're actually going to get cheaper rates when you're going to it, or you're comparable to the old rate. And we had to consider retirees also. Blue Cross and Blue Shield is pushing and encouraging to ensure where you physically live, and we have 2 retirees that are out of state right now, so we had to get some answers back from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So I'm asking that you support the Physician's Choice Plan for the fiscal year 2019/20 fiscal year.
Council has a possible motion in front of you to approve the plan.
That we approved the employee health care plan for 2019-20 fiscal year with the BCBS Physician's Choice Plan. Authorize the clerk to sign. The same will be at the
Second motion.
Moved by Grass, seconded by Elliott, to approve employee health care plan for the 2019-2020 fiscal year with Blue Cross and Blue Shield Physician's Choice Plan, and authorize the clerk to sign the same on behalf of the city. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please vote no. Motion carries. Moves us to our final item of new business, which is discussion of procedures to opt out of trash. Now, this was an item that was requested, and council asked to have this put on the agenda for discussion. I'll open this up for discussion. No? No. I'm wrong. I'm going to let the clerk explain. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry. We have, occasionally there are circumstances where a resident will ask to opt out of trash services. And
Oh, that's
do you want to finish off of how we've done it and
Go ahead.
you, okay.
This was somebody who added on an additional trash pickup. I was thinking of our friend Mr. Bemis and his request to opt out of trash.
Well, you know, and if they decide to do something like that, yeah, but no, this is,
Go ahead, you're correct.
this resident had a home business, so they created 2 trash. It's now just a pole barn. It has horses and
all that kind of stuff in it. And they want to be able to opt out. Our ordinance says that you cannot opt out of residential. And so I went to the mayor because Mayor Rostalou, what he did, we don't have it in writing because it doesn't direct what to do if somebody would opt out. The only people that have been allowed by mayor's approval to opt out is when Lively's on 52, because that was a fire, the house was demolished. Basically, there's no living, it's not livable, it is not a residential anymore, it is just a lot. Then the mayor overrode it by his word and allowed them to opt out of the trash. It's according to our ordinance and our contract, and that was the, I gave you probably way too much information, but there is a few processes to this. There's an ordinance, and then there's rules that the council made back in 2006. It is my belief that you could make some determinations in your rules. I don't know if it would necessarily be by ordinance, because the rules were formally done. They have to be published when things are changed and give notice to the public. But the mayor said to me, he said, I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that Mayor Rostalou was responsible and not just letting anybody opt out, but maybe council should consider a procedure, ordinance, or rule for this situation.
I asked Devin the question I ask so often. Can you show me where I have legal authority to take an action? I can't find any place I have legal authority to decide that this place that's under, or it's got a trash assessment can get out of it.
I just guess, but I don't think we do.
That's why we're talking to you.
So that's why it's a discussion tonight. And then if you want to have some kind of direction to know of whether you want to include in the ordinance or the rules, or just review the materials that I gave you in this package, and it can, there really isn't a big hurry about it, but the resident has not come back for the answer yet, but I assume they will, and I still don't have any answer yet.
So my position is that there's no route for them to opt out, but for the council creating a route for that.
I'm gonna create a monster for, is it Granger that picks up ours, Ally?
Granger
Granger.
is our service.
I mean, if, say you got 3 people in the whole city that opt out, you'd have to, I guess they could do it.
If you
Get
did
the
it the way
address.
Mayor Ross did, it makes sense. Did you understand what I meant on what you did?
Not totally, no.
Harry Bradley's had the fire,
Yes.
and his trash was out. There isn't a building, there isn't a livable residential there. It's
That's
just
correct.
a lot.
That's right.
So he overrode the trash service. He allowed him to opt out because that's the only time Rostalou ever allowed a resident to opt out, was in extreme circumstances where the building, there isn't a residential.
So what opt-out
But there
means
isn't,
in this
there isn't a
case.
residential, but there's a pole barn where you could work in it and develop a trash.
By opt-out, it means that there's no assessment on that property.
Yes.
Which, I'm assuming that is the case there, but even though it has the pole barn, that there isn't an assessment.
There's no assessment for trash.
There's no address for that pole barn. They literally created a trash for that, for this resident that was doing his home business.
So basically,
And it was just a storage area.
we're just gonna revoke what has been allowed in the past, in essence, in this, with him. He's basically just saying, revoke my ability to get trash here.
Correct.
I guess we'd have to change our ordinance if we're gonna allow people to opt out. What if, wow.
Well, that's why it needs to be a matter for discussion. because then that becomes a question. Are you going to allow people to opt out? What kind of procedures are you gonna put in place? I will suggest this, you don't wanna create a general right to opt out. There's no way for Granger to manage that.
No.
And that's not what I'm suggesting.
And that's
What you're
not
gonna do is get people opting out for 2-3 weeks while they're on vacation in the summer and then wanting to get back in.
Well, you would have to create a procedure that allows that, and that's not what we're bringing to you.
We're just saying the parameters are very narrow, what would be considered someone that could opt out of.
We have someone who opted in for the special assessment to receive trash service for a business that doesn't exist anymore. What is the procedure to get out when you do something like that? And my position is I find no authority for me to make any decision on that.
So what you're saying is like, for instance, you write a petition up or something along that lines that they could give to the city that
What is that?
like the council could then decide whether or not to allow that person.
Well, it's a discussion item, I'm not proposing a petition,
Okay.
just for council to give some consideration to how you might deal with this problem. Because there's nothing within policies and ordinances that give myself or the city staff authority to do anything about it.
So you're saying we just that we could create something that would at least give the
If we're
option.
gonna do it with them, then we're gonna do it with whoever.
Well, it depends on how you draw this policy.
If you
So my house burns down and I don't rebuild, and you're gonna tell me I have to pay trash service?
You, yes, anybody else?
I believe it's worth discussion for extenuating circumstances that have happened to your property.
Also parallel something just like you do with the utility stuff when you have houses and all.
We have a process on who inspects it and who determines whether it becomes, yes. We do have a process. And-
Yeah, I mean, is it possible to do something like that? I mean, that would kind of make the whole discussion, and if you had something similar.
That sounds good to me too.
I guess if a house burns down, that's one thing, I wouldn't have a problem for opting out there. Is that resident that has requested it? His house burned down?
Not this circumstance, but it is an example. We've had a couple of houses that have burnt and they did not, they just demolished them. Or there was one before it detached that was asked and there was a fire inside and Ross physically went out there to prove that it wasn't a situation that was livable.
If there's no building on the structure, on the property, I would say then they ought to have a right to opt out. But if they've got, I'm sorry, but if they got a pole barn there, they could be putting trash out.
But what he's saying though is, with this place, when the assessments were originally done, they were not gonna get trash. Were not being assessed, period. They asked to be assessed so that they could get the trash service there. Now what they wanted it for is no longer there, and they wanna get out, but there's no process to get out. There was a process to get in, but there's none to get out.
I'm
And
not
that's
sure
kind of
there was
a
really a
over-
process to get in, but Ross was
Well,
trying to address a
yeah.
problem that came up.
So he gave the special.
So an address was created
Yeah.
just for trash. There is no address that exists for that.
So would everybody be inclined to consider something along the lines of what Councilman Grass suggested? A procedure similar to the one that we have for utilities?
Yes.
Is that good enough for us to go forward?
I just don't want us creating a place where you can have 50 people opt out of this thing and then you're gonna be in
I would
trouble.
be very careful because that would make it very difficult to manage in our office and all building and Granger, because we work as a team right
If I'm not
now.
mistaken with utilities, that each instance has to have approval by council, if I'm not mistaken. Every time somebody.
To disconnect,
To disconnect.
that's been our practice and procedure, yes.
It relies on first the superintendent's approval.
How about if we get it in front of you, Terry, and then you can take a look at it and see if you're still concerned? Fair enough?
I don't care. As long as we protect ourselves.
Are we saying because we need to have 4 votes or something?
You don't need any votes now, I'm just getting a little direction from you guys and advising you what's going on. I think that's an excellent suggestion to use that utility disconnect.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none, we will move to any other business that may come before council. This is the second opportunity for members of the public to address the city council on any matter. We do have a 3-minute time limit. Would anyone from the public like to address the council on anything? Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to let the Perry City Council know that the Perry Township Board opted out of the recreational marijuana yesterday. We have an ordinance in place. So we were getting a lot of calls from California, Detroit, the South, Florida, about land that was available for processing or different areas. So we've opted out. We've joined yours and I think the Township of Fenton opted out Monday night, and a host of others across the state of Michigan.
Mark, our clerk has a rule, you have to say your name or she won't write it in the minutes. If you'd like your name to appear in the minutes.
Perry Township Supervisor.
If I say it, she won't write it down.
Friend of Terry Wood.
I got a friend.
Anything else?
And the mayor. Thank you for coming last night for me. I appreciate it.
I'm glad I could be useful. Thank you very much. Would anyone else from the public like to address council on any matter? Seeing no other public comment, do members of council have any matters of business that need to come before you for action tonight? I have a couple things to bring to council's attention, matters that are going to need your attention in the near future. First, we have in place a moratorium passed last fall, blocking enforcement of the A-frame sign ordinance. That was done on the idea that we were going to take a look at that sign ordinance and make some decisions on whether or not we want to change it. So the city has not been enforcing its ordinance related to A-frame signs. However, a substantial period of time has passed, and I'm going to be looking for council to give us some direction on what you want to do in connection with the sign ordinance. Do we want to get into that? Do we want to reevaluate, rewrite the entire ordinance? Do we want to make some small changes? I don't need, you can talk about it tonight if you want. I'm not saying you have to do anything tonight, but this thing's been sitting for a long time and it's going to need some attention on what you want to do about your sign ordinance. The other thing that needs to come up for council discussion in this term is post-employment benefits. We began a discussion on that last year. We had dealt with that in our negotiations with the police union. The police union agreed to defer their request to give council a chance to make some decisions regarding post-employment benefits. Of particular interest is the benefit that allows, after 25 years of service, for employees to receive the city-paid health insurance until they are eligible for for Medicare. And so this creates a liability that is recorded on our books for purposes of the audit, and we agreed after our negotiations with the police union that we would have some discussions about what it is that we want to do, and that will affect future negotiations with the police union. So that's something we're going to need to get into in the near future. Again, you don't have to take any decisions on it now, but it's something that we're going to have to talk about. In light of what I brought up, does council have anything? All right. Then that'll bring to a close any other business that may come before council, and we'll move us to council discussions and observations. Mrs. Honda. Do you have anything you'd like to talk to
Nothing
us?
terrific.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Galvin, do you have anything for us
I
tonight?
don't.
Councilman Grass?
Today's the 75th anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944. Had a lot of family that, grandparents and folks that fought in that. So thankful to our servicemen, both current and former.
Thank you. Councilman Elliott?
I was just going to say, as part of the planning commission, we will miss Mindy being a part of that from now on. But we are looking forward to having Genevieve as part of that and bringing her on board and allowing her to be part of the wonderful Perry Planning Commission. So welcome.
Councilman Wood?
No.
I've talked to you tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your participation tonight. Terry, thank you for making our quorum.
I apologize for being late. I had my head in a tractor and my phone was in the truck over in the lot. So
Well, we got to have a meeting tonight only because the four of you showed up. Thank you. That'll move us to agenda items for the next meeting. So we will have possible adoption of ordinance 344, possible adoption of ordinance 343. Let's leave mayor appointments on there, and I'll read through that ordinance about the Water Pollution Committee. Let's put on there possible first reading regarding noise ordinance and regulating hours of operation. I don't know if we'll have it ready yet, but let's get it on there so when it's ready, you can talk about it. And Devin, do we need more than until the 20th to deal with this trash opt-out policy?
Let's try it. I don't know what, I'm gonna read through and I'm probably gonna ask the city attorney to revise, so if it's not ready, so just gonna read.
So let's put it on the agenda, so when it's ready, you'll be in a position to consider it. Does anyone else have any other items for the next agenda? If anything comes up between now and the 20th of June, please contact the city clerk and let her know what that item of business is for your agenda. We'll make sure everything that you need to consider is on there to take action. And with that, the time is now 8:40 p.m. We are adjourned.